I am Thomas, and you're looking at the movie poster for Lonely Hearts. Most recently, they're starring Travolta, the great James Gandolfini, Jared Leto, among others. And years before, The Honeymoon Killers, which is based around the same premise, and that is the story of Martha Beck and Raymond Martinez. And this is where they lived. The top window, their home in Valley Stream. They were better known as the Lonely Hearts Killers. And they were executed many, many years ago at Sing Sing Correctional Facility here, which is in upstate New York. They had been on death row after being convicted of one murder, though they are believed to have killed as many as 20 people, all of whom were lured through responses to singles ads in their local newspapers. Now, their story back in the late 40s was one of the most notorious sprees in the United States history. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, they inspired many numerous films. Here is Martha Beck and a little bit about Martha Beck as we were traveling here to get a better view of how the neighborhood looks. In present day, we're going down Sunrise Highway, which is a few miles, probably within 3 miles of the location where the house is located. Martha Beck, born in 1920 in Florida, she had a problem with her glands, which caused her to be overweight. She was overweight, and it caused her to undergo puberty prematurely. Beck later claimed, during her trial, that she was sexually assaulted at a young age by her brother, and that her mother was also abusive, allegedly. Beck, and there she is on the right-hand side again, believe it or not, completed nursing school, but struggled to find a job, and she bounced around the U.S. for a while. Eventually, she returned back to Florida, and she was pregnant with her first child. Shortly after, she became pregnant with her second child. Now, Beck, at this point, married the second baby's father, but they were divorced within a few months. In 1946, as a single mother of two, Martha Beck landed a job at a children's hospital where she was a nurse. So let's just pause and remember Martha landed a job as a nurse. We go to this winner here, Mr. Fernandez, and he was born in 1914 in Hawaii. Spanish parents. He moved around a number of times, eventually
make a U-turn at Saturday Avenue, then turn right onto Adeline Place.
He worked like in the ocean he worked with his uncle in Spain, where he married and started a family by the time he turned 20. Young age to start a family. He served in World War II before deciding to return to the U.S., abandoning his wife and 4 children. On the ship, he suffered a head injury, which damaged his frontal lobe and led him to be hospitalized for 3 months. He then fell after his stay at the hospital. When he was let out, he was no longer in the service. He fell into a life of crime and was sent to prison for theft. There, a Haitian cellmate reportedly taught him voodoo, which he believed made him irresistible to woman.
Turn right onto Adeline Place.
So we have Mr. Fernandez, who thinks he's irresistible to women, God's gift to woman. Enter Mrs. Beck, who, remember, we left her working for a children's hospital. And a year later, she placed a Lonely Hearts ad. And soon, guess who came on knocking? God's gift to woman, Mr. Fernandez. Yep, so he answered the personal, the only Lonely Hearts ad. And Fernandez came to Florida from New York to stay with her briefly, but returned to the city. Beck was then unexpectedly fired from her job. So she packed up her life and decided to move in with Fernandez. She waited on him like a puppy. And he confessed his life of crime to her. Now, what would Miss Beck do? You figure she'd do the right thing, right? Leave him? No! Possibly influenced by her love of romance novels and certainly influenced by Fernandez, Beck gave up her children to the Salvation Army and committed everything she had to Fernandez. Gave up the kids for him. And now, what did Mr. Fernandez do? Well, he continued to answer Lonely Heart ads, and Beck would often claim that Beck, she often posed as Fernandez's sister, claiming that he was just a guest and the home was hers. Now, that lie allowed him to keep his public respectability, and it made his victims more comfortable to have someone else in the home with them. Beck's love for Fernandez made her incredibly jealous, and if he ever slept with a woman from the ads, Beck flew into a rage. In 1949, Fernandez got engaged to an individual by the name of Janet Fay. And she moved into his apartment in Long Island, which is, again, the house that we're looking at. They all lived on the top floor. Janet, Fernandez, and Beck. When Beck discovered them in bed together, she murdered Fay by beating her with a hammer, after which Fernandez strangled her. Beaten and strangled. Now, before this would happen, usually the victim was already blindly robbed of their life savings. Now, this is Fay that we just discussed. She was actually, didn't get a chance to go to the house. She was, after she was beaten and killed, she was taken to a home in South Ozone Park and buried inside the home in the basement. Dug up and just left there in a shallow grave. You could see the home here. It was during the winter time. You're gonna see the pictures coming up of after her body was discovered in the basement there. But at that point, it was already too late. The couple fled to Michigan when Faye's family grew suspicious as to what happened to her. They escaped. And they settled in Wyoming Township, just outside of Grand Rapids. And there, Fernandez and Beck met a 28-year-old Delphine Downing. You see her pictured with her 2-year-old daughter, who came with her to meet the pair. At some point, Downing became upset, and Fernandez gave her sleeping pills. The unusual state caused Downing's daughter distress, and Beck became annoyed by her crying. Beck choked the girl, though didn't kill her, and Fernandez worried that the bruises would arouse suspicion when Downing woke up. He shot and killed the unconscious Downing, so she could not report them, and they stayed in her house for the next few days. The child's crying became too much, and Beck drowned the girl to stop her from crying. They then buried Downing and her daughter in the basement of the house, but worried that neighbors had already reported them missing. Raymond Martinez Fernandez and Martha Jewel Beck were arrested by Wyoming Township Police soon after at the home. During the interrogation, Fernandez confessed to 17 murders all over the country, but he later attempted to retract his confession. He told police he was trying to protect Beck, but he knew Michigan did not have a death penalty and used the confession as a way to stay there. However, Fernandez and Beck were extradited back to New York for the murder of Janet Fay, a state that did have the death penalty at the time. They were tried and convicted of the murder and sentenced to the electric chair. Gee, I can't talk. Soon after, being convicted, they went to Sing Sing prison, which is in upstate New York. Though Fernandez believed he was trying to protect Beck, she was very open about her motives. In her final interview with the press, she said, "What does it matter who is to blame? My story is a love story. My love story is a love story. But only those tortured with love can understand what I mean. I was pictured as a fat, unfeeling woman. I'm not unfeeling, stupid, or moronic in the history of the world. How many crimes have been attributed to love? Fernandez and Beck were executed on March 8th, 1951, for the murder of Janet Fay. Now, police had suspected Fernandez, and they believed this confession of the deaths of at least 17 people. However, there was no way to know if the number was much higher. And they didn't have enough evidence, they didn't feel. One of America's most notorious couples, an evil couple.
There's no harm in writing to somebody who's so gentle and
very evil
and
couple.
Refined, and whose sister is a nurse.
There's the clips of that movie, one of the many that came out. Hope all is well. Until next time.